Emma Johnston arrested, jailed for 6 months. Yes, you heard that right. Welcome back to our channel, where we dive deep into the untold stories behind reality TV's most famous families. Today, we're uncovering a shocking and emotional chapter in the life of the Johnston family from TLC's hit show 7 Little Johnstons. Last August, Emma Johnston secretly started a clothing business. No one in her family knew about it. To start the business, she borrowed $30,000 from a gentleman named Joseph. However, within a short time, Emma became heavily addicted to drugs and online gambling. She began spending the business money on drugs and gambling, which gradually led to the collapse of her business. Eventually, Emma Johnston's mother, Amber Johnston, discovered the matter and informed the rest of the family. Emma then demanded an additional $10,000 from her father, Trent Johnston, to fund her drug and gambling habits. When Trent refused to give her the money, Emma Johnston behaved disrespectfully toward her father. Her behavior deeply devastated her mother, Amber Johnston. Later, Joseph, the man who had lent Emma $30,000, filed a lawsuit against her in court for failing to repay the loan. Emma Johnston was accused of behaving dishonestly with her parents and failing to repay Joseph's $30,000 debt. The court found the charges against her to be true. As a result, the court sentenced Emma Johnston to 6 months in prison and ordered her to be sent to a rehabilitation center after completing her jail term. This is not just a story about fame or fortune. It's a cautionary tale about choices, consequences, and the fragile balance between independence and responsibility. So let's begin this journey into Emma Johnston's hidden struggles, her family's pain, and the lessons that echo far beyond the walls of the Johnston household. Emma Johnston had always been seen as the cheerful, bubbly daughter of Amber and Trent. On 7 Little Johnstons, she appeared confident, playful, and eager to carve her own path. But beneath that smile was a young woman yearning for independence. In August, Emma quietly began working on a clothing business. She didn't tell her parents, siblings, or anyone in her household. For Emma, secrecy was part of the thrill. She wanted to prove she could succeed on her own, away from the protective shadow of her family's fame. She envisioned trendy outfits, online sales, and a brand that would resonate with young audiences. But starting a business required capital, and Emma didn't have the savings. That's when she turned to Joseph, a man willing to lend her $30,000. It was a huge sum, especially for someone with no prior business experience. Yet Emma convinced herself it was the first step toward independence. At first, Emma worked tirelessly. She sketched designs, browsed suppliers, and even created mock-ups of her brand. But the pressure of secrecy weighed heavily on her. She couldn't share her excitement with her family, nor could she ask for guidance. Every decision was hers alone, and every mistake carried double the weight. Soon, the stress began to overwhelm her. Instead of channeling her energy into the business, Emma sought escape. Drugs and online gambling became her outlet. What started as occasional indulgence quickly spiraled into addiction. The $30,000 loan, meant to build her dream, was drained into habits that offered temporary relief but lasting damage. Within weeks, the business was collapsing. Orders weren't fulfilled, suppliers weren't paid, and Emma's vision crumbled. Yet she kept the secret alive, hiding the truth from her family. Emma Johnston's secret business venture was ambitious, but ambition alone doesn't pay the bills. She knew she needed capital, something substantial enough to launch her clothing brand with suppliers, marketing, and inventory. That's when Joseph entered the picture. Joseph wasn't a family friend, nor was he connected to the Johnston household. He was a businessman who occasionally lent money to young entrepreneurs. Emma approached him with confidence, painting a picture of a promising online clothing line. She spoke of trendy designs, social media campaigns, and her determination to succeed. Her charm and enthusiasm convinced Joseph that she was serious. After several meetings, Joseph agreed to lend Emma $30,000. For him, it was a calculated risk. For Emma, it was the lifeline she had been waiting for. She signed the agreement, promising repayment within a set time frame. The moment the money hit her account, Emma felt unstoppable. But beneath the excitement was a dangerous truth. Emma had no real plan. She hadn't consulted her parents, who had years of experience managing finances and navigating challenges. She hadn't built a team or secured reliable suppliers. Instead, she relied on impulse and secrecy. At first, Emma tried to keep up appearances. She ordered samples, created sketches, and even posted teaser images online. But the pressure of running a business alone quickly became overwhelming. Every decision felt heavier, every mistake more costly. And with no one to lean on, Emma began to crack under the weight of responsibility. It was during this fragile period that Emma discovered the temporary escape of online gambling. What started as curiosity soon became obsession. The thrill of winning, or the hope of winning, pulled her deeper into the cycle. Drugs soon followed, offering her a false sense of relief from the mounting stress. The $30,000 loan, meant to build a future, began slipping through her fingers. Instead of paying suppliers or investing in marketing, Emma poured thousands into gambling sites and substances that numbed her anxiety. Joseph's money was disappearing, and Emma's dream was collapsing before it had even begun. Yet Emma kept the secret alive. She didn't tell Joseph how the funds were being used. She didn't confide in Amber or Trent. To the outside world, she was still the cheerful daughter of the Johnston family. But behind closed doors, Emma was spiraling into a dangerous double life, one built on borrowed money, hidden habits, and mounting lies. For a brief moment, Emma Johnston believed she was on the verge of success. With Joseph's $30,000 loan in her account, she felt empowered. She ordered samples, drafted designs, and even spoke to a few online vendors. Her social media presence hinted at something exciting on the horizon, a clothing brand that could potentially make her stand out not just as a daughter of the Johnston family, but as an independent entrepreneur. Emma's confidence grew as she imagined herself running a thriving business. She pictured customers wearing her designs, influencers promoting her brand, and profits rolling in. The secrecy gave her a sense of control. This was her project, her identity, separate from the family spotlight. For a short time, Emma lived in the illusion of progress. But behind the scenes, cracks were forming. Running a business required discipline, structure, and financial responsibility, qualities Emma struggled to maintain. The stress of secrecy weighed heavily on her. She couldn't ask Amber or Trent for advice, nor could she share her struggles with her siblings. Every mistake was hers alone, and the pressure became unbearable. That's when Emma turned to online gambling. At first, it was harmless curiosity, placing small bets, chasing the thrill of winning. But soon, gambling became an obsession. Each loss pushed her to bet more. Each win fueled her addiction. The $30,000 loan, meant to build her dream, began slipping away into digital casinos. Drugs followed soon after. What started as a way to cope with anxiety quickly spiraled into dependency. Emma found herself spending thousands on substances that dulled her pain but destroyed her focus. The business funds, once a symbol of opportunity, were now fueling habits that consumed her life. Within weeks, Emma's clothing business collapsed. Orders weren't processed, suppliers weren't paid, and her online presence faded into silence. The dream she had built in secrecy was gone, replaced by mounting debt and destructive habits. Yet Emma continued to hide the truth. To Joseph, she maintained the illusion of progress. To her family, she remained the cheerful daughter they saw on television. But inside, Emma was living a double life, one built on lies, addiction, and the slow unraveling of her future. This was the rise and sudden fall of Emma Johnston's secret business. What began as a bold step toward independence had turned into a devastating spiral, and soon the consequences of her choices would begin to surface, pulling her family into the storm she had tried so hard to conceal. Amber Johnston had always been the heart of the family, the mother who balanced discipline with compassion, the one who kept the household running smoothly even under the spotlight of reality television. She prided herself on knowing her children inside and out. But Emma's secret was something Amber never saw coming. For months, Amber noticed several changes in Emma's behavior. Her once cheerful daughter seemed distracted, often retreating to her room for long hours. She avoided family conversations, skipped meals, and grew defensive whenever asked about her activities. At first, Amber chalked it up to normal teenage independence, but the signs kept piling up, and Amber's instincts told her something was wrong. The truth began to unravel one evening when Amber stumbled upon suspicious documents in Emma's room, receipts, invoices, and notes that hinted at a business venture. Confused, Amber dug deeper and discovered evidence of the $30,000 loan from Joseph. Shock washed over her. Emma had borrowed a massive sum of money without telling anyone in the family. Amber's heart sank. She wasn't angry at first. She was devastated. Why hadn't Emma trusted her? Why had she chosen secrecy over guidance? As Amber pieced together the fragments, she realized the situation was far worse than a failed business. Bank statements revealed large withdrawals, gambling transactions, and unexplained expenses. The money wasn't being used to build a clothing brand. It was being drained by addiction. Amber confronted Emma, hoping for honesty. But Emma resisted, denying the extent of her problems. The confrontation quickly escalated into tears, frustration, and heartbreak. Amber, who had always believed in open communication, now faced the painful reality that her daughter had not only hidden the truth, but had also fallen into destructive habits. The weight of the discovery was crushing. Amber felt torn between anger and sorrow. She wanted to protect Emma, but she also knew the family deserved to know the truth. Keeping it hidden would only deepen the damage. With a heavy heart, Amber gathered Trent and the rest of the family. She explained everything: the secret business, the $30,000 loan, the gambling, and the drugs. The room fell silent as the reality sank in. Shock turned to disbelief, disbelief to sadness. The Johnston household, once filled with laughter, now echoed with tension and grief. Amber's discovery marked a turning point. The family could no longer ignore Emma's struggles. The secret was out, and the consequences were unavoidable. For Amber, it was the most painful moment of motherhood, realizing that the daughter she loved so deeply had chosen a path of secrecy, dishonesty, and self-destruction. After Amber's heartbreaking discovery, the Johnston household was already shaken. The family had just begun to process the truth about Emma's failed business, her gambling, and her drug use. But the storm was far from over. Emma, now desperate and consumed by her addictions, turned to her father, Trent Johnston. Trent had always been the steady anchor of the family, the calm, hard-working father who believed in discipline and responsibility. He was the one who taught his children the value of honesty and hard work. But Emma's next move would test his patience and his love in ways he had never imagined. One evening, Emma approached Trent with a demand: $10,000. She insisted she needed the money immediately. But this wasn't for business, nor was it for survival. It was to fuel her gambling and drug habits. Emma masked her desperation with anger, framing it as a necessity rather than an addiction. Trent listened carefully, his heart heavy. He knew the truth. He had seen the evidence Amber uncovered, and he understood that giving Emma more money would only deepen her spiral. With firm resolve, Trent refused. He explained that enabling her destructive habits would not save her, it would destroy her. Emma's reaction was explosive. She lashed out at her father, raising her voice, accusing him of not caring, and even disrespecting him in ways the family had never witnessed before. For Trent, the pain wasn't just in the words, it was in seeing his daughter, once full of joy and innocence, consumed by anger and addiction. Amber, watching from the sidelines, was devastated. She had hoped Emma would find comfort in her father's guidance, but instead, Emma turned her frustration into hostility. The confrontation left Amber in tears, realizing that her daughter's respect for her parents had been eroded by the grip of addiction. The family stood in shock. Emma's demand for $10,000 wasn't just about money. It symbolized the widening gap between her and her parents. It was a moment that revealed how far she had drifted from the values Amber and Trent had worked so hard to instill. For Trent, refusing his daughter was one of the hardest decisions he had ever made. He wanted to protect her, to shield her from pain, but he also knew that giving in would only feed the very habits destroying her life. His refusal was an act of love, though Emma couldn't see it at the time. The Johnston household had always been a place of warmth, laughter, and resilience. Viewers of Seven Little Johnstons saw a family that faced challenges together, overcoming obstacles with humor and love. But after Emma's demand for $10,000 and her disrespectful clash with Trent, the atmosphere inside the home shifted dramatically. Amber was devastated. She had already endured the heartbreak of discovering Emma's secret business collapse and her addictions. Now, watching her daughter lash out at Trent, the man who had always been the family's pillar, was almost unbearable. Amber felt torn between anger and sorrow. She wanted to protect Emma, but she also knew her daughter's behavior was tearing the family apart. Trent, though outwardly calm, carried the weight of disappointment. His refusal to give Emma the money was an act of love, but Emma's reaction cut deep. For a father who had always worked tirelessly to provide for his children, being accused of not caring was a wound that lingered. He struggled to reconcile the daughter he once knew with the young woman now consumed by addiction and desperation. The siblings, too, were shaken. Emma's brothers and sisters had looked up to her as the cheerful, fun-loving sibling who brought energy into the household. Now, they watched her spiral into anger and dishonesty. Some felt betrayed, others confused. How could Emma, who had always been part of their tight-knit bond, turn against the very family that supported her? Conversations around the dinner table grew tense. Silence replaced laughter. Every interaction carried the weight of Emma's choices. The Johnston family, once united, now found themselves divided by fear, frustration, and uncertainty. Amber tried to hold the family together, reminding them that Emma was still their daughter, their sister, and their loved one. But even she struggled to find hope in the chaos. The image of Emma demanding money, her voice filled with anger, replayed in Amber's mind over and over. For the Johnstons, this was more than a financial crisis. It was an emotional one. Emma's actions had shaken the very foundation of trust within the household. The family was left asking painful questions. How had they missed the signs? Could they have prevented this? And most importantly, how could they help Emma without enabling her destructive habits? The Johnston family was already reeling from Emma's collapse, her addictions, and the painful confrontation with Trent. But the storm outside their home was about to hit even harder. Joseph, the man who had trusted Emma with $30,000, was no longer willing to wait. For months, Joseph had believed Emma's promises. She assured him that the clothing business was progressing, that profits were just around the corner, and that repayment would come soon. But as time passed, Joseph saw no results. The business had vanished, Emma avoided his calls, and the debt remained untouched. Joseph was not a man easily deceived. He had lent Emma the money under a formal agreement, expecting professionalism and accountability. What he received instead was silence, excuses, and dishonesty. To Joseph, this wasn't just a failed business, it was betrayal. Finally, Joseph decided to take legal action. He filed a lawsuit against Emma Johnston, demanding repayment of the $30,000 loan. The case quickly drew attention, not only because of the money involved but because Emma was the daughter of reality TV stars. The Johnston family, once admired for their resilience, now faced the harsh glare of public scrutiny. Amber and Trent were devastated. They had only just begun to process Emma's addictions, and now they were confronted with the reality that her choices had spilled into the legal system. The lawsuit wasn't just about money. It was about reputation, trust, and accountability. Emma, however, struggled to face the truth. She insisted that Joseph was being unfair, that he should have given her more time. But deep down, she knew the reality. The money was gone, spent on gambling and drugs, and there was no way to repay it. The Johnston household grew tense as the lawsuit loomed. Conversations turned to lawyers, court dates, and the possibility of Emma facing serious consequences. For Amber, the pain was unbearable. She had watched her daughter spiral into addiction, disrespect her father, and now faced the humiliation of a public lawsuit. Trent, though heartbroken, remained firm. He reminded Emma that actions have consequences, that dishonesty cannot be hidden forever. His words were not cruel. They were the truth Emma needed to hear, even if she refused to accept it. Joseph's lawsuit marked the moment Emma's private struggles became public. The courtroom would no longer be a place of secrecy. It would be the stage where Emma's choices were laid bare, judged not only by her family but by the law itself. The day of the trial arrived, and with it came a heavy silence that hung over the Johnston household. For weeks, the family had lived in fear of this moment. The moment Emma's secrets would no longer be confined to their home but laid bare before the court. The courtroom was packed with tension. Joseph sat firmly at the plaintiff's table, his expression cold but resolute. He had trusted Emma with $30,000, and now he was demanding justice. On the other side sat Emma, visibly nervous, her parents Amber and Trent behind her, their faces etched with sorrow. The proceedings began with Joseph's testimony. He explained how Emma had approached him with confidence, promising a clothing business that would thrive. He recounted the meetings, the signed agreement, and the assurances Emma had given him. But most damning of all, Joseph presented evidence. Bank statements showing gambling transactions, unexplained withdrawals, and purchases that had nothing to do with business. The courtroom fell silent as the truth unfolded. Emma's dream of independence had been built on lies, and the paper trail revealed the depth of her deception. When it was Emma's turn to speak, her voice trembled. She tried to explain the pressure she had felt, the stress of secrecy, and the way addiction had consumed her. But the judge was unmoved. Addiction might explain her actions, but it did not excuse them. The facts were clear. Emma had borrowed money under false pretenses, failed to repay it, and used it for destructive habits. Amber sat in the gallery, tears streaming down her face. Watching her daughter confess to dishonesty was a mother's worst nightmare. Trent, though stoic, clenched his jaw, his disappointment heavy. For both parents, this was not just a legal battle. It was the painful confirmation of how far Emma had fallen. The judge delivered the verdict with firm clarity. Emma Johnston was found guilty of failing to repay Joseph's $30,000 loan and of acting dishonestly with her parents. The sentence was harsh but necessary: 6 months in prison, followed by mandatory rehabilitation. The words echoed through the courtroom. Emma's face fell, her body trembling as the reality sank in. The Johnston family sat in stunned silence, grappling with the weight of the decision. For Emma, the courtroom was the end of her secrecy. The lies, the addictions, the failed business, all of it had been exposed. For her family, it was the painful truth they could no longer deny. The courtroom verdict had been delivered: 6 months in prison, followed by mandatory rehabilitation. For Emma Johnston, the words echoed like a final judgment on her choices. The young woman who once dreamed of independence through a clothing business was now facing the harsh reality of confinement. Prison was unlike anything Emma had ever experienced. Gone were the comforts of her family home, the laughter of her siblings, and the protective embrace of Amber and Trent. In their place were cold walls, strict routines, and the sobering reminder that her actions had consequences. Emma struggled in the early days, her mind restless, her body craving the substances she had relied on. The withdrawal was painful, both physically and emotionally. Amber visited whenever she could, her eyes filled with sorrow, but also determination. She reminded Emma that prison was not the end. It was the beginning of accountability. Trent, though quieter, offered his presence as a steady anchor. He didn't lecture or scold. He simply showed up, a silent reminder that despite the pain, he was still her father. Inside prison, Emma had time to reflect. The noise of gambling sites, the haze of drugs, and the chaos of secrecy were gone. In their place was silence, a silence that forced her to confront the truth. She replayed the moments in her mind. The thrill of borrowing $30,000, the rush of gambling, the anger at her father, the heartbreak in her mother's eyes. Each memory was a reminder of how far she had fallen. After 6 months, Emma's sentence shifted to rehabilitation. The transition was daunting, but it offered hope. The Rehabilitation Center was strict yet supportive, designed to break the cycle of addiction and rebuild lives. Emma attended counseling sessions, group therapy, and workshops that taught her coping mechanisms. For the first time, she spoke openly about her struggles, the pressure of secrecy, the lure of gambling, the false comfort of drugs. Amber and Trent stood by her side throughout the process. Amber encouraged Emma to embrace honesty, reminding her that secrecy had been the root of her downfall. Trent emphasized discipline, urging her to rebuild her life with responsibility and respect. Slowly, Emma began to understand that rehabilitation wasn't punishment. It was a chance at redemption. The road was long and filled with setbacks. Emma battled cravings, moments of despair, and the weight of guilt. But with each passing day, she grew stronger. The Rehabilitation Center became a place of healing, where Emma learned not only to fight her addictions, but also to rebuild trust with herself and with her family. The Johnston family had endured months of turmoil, secrecy, addiction, confrontation, and the harsh reality of a courtroom verdict. Emma Johnston's journey from ambition to collapse had left scars on everyone involved. Yet, as she completed her prison sentence and entered rehabilitation, a new chapter began, not just for Emma, but for the entire family. Amber Johnston reflected often on the ordeal. As a mother, she had always believed in guiding her children with love and honesty. Discovering Emma's secret business and her addictions had been the most painful experience of her life. But Amber also realized that secrecy had been Emma's downfall. If Emma had trusted her family from the beginning, the story might have been different. For Amber, the lesson was clear: communication is the lifeline of family. Without it, even the strongest bonds can break. Trent Johnston carried his own lessons. Refusing Emma's demand for $10,000 had been one of the hardest decisions he had ever made. Watching his daughter lash out at him was devastating, but Trent knew that enabling her would have destroyed her completely. His role as a father was not just to provide. It was to protect, even when protection meant saying no. Trent's lesson was one of discipline. Love sometimes requires boundaries, and true care means standing firm against destructive choices. For Emma, the lessons were the hardest of all. Prison stripped away her illusions, forcing her to confront the reality of her actions. Rehabilitation gave her tools to rebuild, teaching her that addiction thrives in secrecy but weakens in honesty. She learned that independence is not about hiding from family. It's about embracing responsibility and accountability. Emma's journey was painful, but it offered her a chance at redemption. The Johnston siblings, too, carried lessons from the ordeal. They saw firsthand how addiction can transform a loved one, how dishonesty can fracture trust, and how resilience is built not in perfection, but in recovery. Their bond, though tested, grew stronger as they rallied around Emma, determined to support her through the long road ahead. In the end, Emma's story was not just about failure. It was about growth. The collapse of her clothing business, the lawsuit, the prison sentence, and rehabilitation were chapters in a larger narrative, a cautionary tale about choices, consequences, and the power of family. The Johnston household, once shaken by secrecy, began to heal through honesty. Emma's journey reminded them all that fame does not shield anyone from life's struggles, and that even in the darkest moments, redemption is possible. Emma Johnston's journey is not just the story of a failed business. It's the painful reminder of how secrecy, addiction, and dishonesty can unravel even the strongest families. From borrowing $30,000 in secret, to gambling it away, to clashing with her parents, and finally facing prison and rehabilitation, Emma's choices left scars that will take years to heal. But as we close this chapter, we are left with powerful questions. Why did Emma feel she had to hide her ambitions from Amber and Trent? Could her parents have stopped the spiral if they had known sooner? Was Joseph's trust misplaced, or was Emma's betrayal inevitable? And most importantly, can Emma truly rebuild her life after prison, or will her past forever define her? The Johnston family has always shown resilience on Seven Little Johnstons. Yet Emma's downfall proves that fame does not protect anyone from real-life struggles. Addiction doesn't just consume the individual, it shakes the entire family, testing bonds of love and trust. Still, within tragedy lies hope. Prison stripped away Emma's illusions, and rehabilitation offers her a chance at redemption. Her story reminds us that independence must be built on responsibility, and that honesty is the foundation of trust. So, as viewers, we must ask ourselves, what lessons can we take from Emma's fall? And when faced with secrecy and addiction in our own lives, will we turn away or fight to rebuild love and trust? More update. Emma's awkward Christmas wish lands her in trouble, and Anna praised for standing up against siblings as they speak negative things like Trent and Amber. Emma shares sweet tribute for her late grandma in her latest post. I'll miss you. Amber and Trent facing $435,000 lien for not paying taxing for 3 years. I will explain everything. It was established that Emma and Anna Johnston were the closest among the 7 little Johnstons. Their close relationship was praised by viewers over the years. Things worsened, though, and it was clear that Anna had abandoned her family. When Trent and Amber Johnston failed to post anything regarding her graduation, it all started. Subsequently, Anna was absent from the family's trip to Puerto Rico. In a video, she explained that she wasn't invited. Fans have been able to see the animosity clearly ever since. Since Trent and Amber have been treating her in a totally different way for some time, they have been supporting her. When Emma's request added fuel to the flames over Christmas, fans blasted her. Why did she do it? Anna and Emma share a bond unlike any other, as many fans of 7 Little Johnstons are aware. Initially great friends, they later became sisters. Nevertheless, the rest of the family supported their parents once Trent and Amber made the decision to leave Anna, so the link between Anna and Emma was severely harmed. Since the feud began, they have also made numerous online jabs at one another. Emma was also with her brother Jonah's girlfriend, Ashley, while they were in Puerto Rico. She called her bestie and sent them both images. She would use that word first with Anna. Fans don't like it, and they already know that was Emma's method of making her estranged sister envious. They have been criticizing her for one more instance of this. How did it happen? Many admirers adored Emma over the years because of her positive outlook and pleasant demeanor. Her internet contributions are frequently anticipated by 7 Little Johnstons admirers. It turns out, however, that things have been a little sour for some time. Emma chose to side with her parents, Trent and Amber, in their decision to dump Anna. As a result, fans are angry that she failed to support her sister. Additionally, Emma's followers felt that it was inconsiderate of her to choose new best friends right once to put Anna's face in. She then committed another startling act around Christmas. A photo from last year's holiday season was uploaded by the celebrity. Anna was also among them. Emma did this because it was widely known that Anna would not be featured in this year's photos. Why Emma posted the photos from the previous year was questioned by several Reddit users. Some claimed that because Anna wasn't included, she didn't want the audience to make fun of the family. Sharing a photo from a year ago, however, infuriated people since it seemed the family had not resolved their disagreements. Are fans ever going to learn what went wrong with them? Will it be made public in the upcoming season? Tell us your thoughts in the space provided here. Anna praised for standing up against siblings as they speak negative things like Trent and Amber. Anna Johnston has had enough of her relatives calling her a bad person on 7 Little Johnstons. During a heated argument over dinner, she stood up against her siblings and told them to shut up. To get to know each other and end the family quarrel, Alex and Emma asked their sister to supper. But their tone betrayed the extent to which Trent and Amber had conditioned them to distrust Anna. Reality TV stars started questioning her about the controversy and placed her in a difficult position. Certainly, Anna had no desire to hear any additional charges leveled against her. Relationships are two-way streets, she clapped back at her siblings. For standing up for herself, the TLC artist received appreciation from her fans. Tell me the truth. What were Alex and Emma's reactions? Starring 7 young Johnstons, because of her family's critical attitudes, Anna Johnston has already encountered some difficult times. No longer will anyone dare accuse her of being the root of the family's problems. The reality TV star was to meet with Alex and Emma in an effort to put a stop to their dispute. But Anna had no idea why her siblings had such a dramatic change of attitude. As they stirred the pot one more, her disbelief grew. Since you were absent at our graduation, Alex reasoned. So, it seems like you have been busy. She hadn't been visiting them or seeing their niece Leighton, and he wanted to know why. The meeting might not go as to plan, Anna thought to herself. She was shocked that, similar to their parents, Alex and Emma would try to provoke her into an argument. On season 16, Anna Johnston hoped to enjoy herself with her siblings. Realizing their ulterior motives behind their abrupt plan for a catch-up devastated her heart. The star of 7 Little Johnstons made an effort to disregard the criticism and even vowed to quit if things continued. Relationships are two-way streets, Anna told her siblings. It has always been portrayed as me being the evil guy, the person, she added. The TLC personality accused Alex and Emma of ignoring her attempts at a relationship by not texting or otherwise contacting her. Why does her family always assume she will see Trent and Amber, but never shows up at her house? Anna wanted to know. You can't have it both ways, she said. No one is trying to make me seem to be the evil guy. The TLC actress was curious as to why, despite her mom visiting Liz's house multiple times, they never made an effort to contact her or even show up at her house. Alex and Emma were wondering if their parents could put the past in the past. The former also vented his frustrations with Anna, saying that she should have owned up to the underage girl scandal. The audience, however, failed to grasp the rationale behind Anna's younger siblings' attempts to parent her. By conversing with Anna, they became acutely aware of their state of brainwashing. A viewer questioned, why are they harboring resentment toward their sister because of her misbehavior? What strange conduct from siblings? Someone else lauded Anna for standing up for herself and refusing to let anyone dictate the story. Everyone in the family seemed to be thinking the same way Trent and Amber were. Emma shares sweet tribute for her late grandma in her latest post. I'll miss you. The loss of Emma Johnston's grandma is causing her to struggle. She is mourning the death of her grandmother and figuring out how to handle her feelings. Social media was used by the 7 Little Johnstons family to confirm the death of their cherished relative. Amber verified the news on social media by posting a picture of her deceased mother-in-law. She may still be dealing with her feelings, which is why she didn't talk much about the terrible event. Poppy, Trent's father, passed away more than a year ago. His second parent's death must therefore be extremely difficult for him. The reality TV personality has not expressed his emotions to his followers. Trent is already battling his personal health problems. It was Liz who broke the news to the fans first. Emma also honored her grandmother by sharing a heartfelt recollection. Trent Johnston's kids enjoy a close relationship with their grandparents. They cherished spending time with them and had a unique bond. However, the family of the 7 little Johnstons has had a very tough few years. Liz's upload of a picture of herself with her Nana startled followers. She decorated her grandmother's head with a hail of sign to symbolize her untimely death. The TLC personality shared her affection for her grandmother. Liz wrote, "I will always love you, Nana." She used the past tense when speaking about her grandmother as well. The reality TV star's death was thus the subject of fan speculation. The fact that Trent lost both of his parents in 2 years astounded them. They hoped he would soon get over the loss. A number of admirers offered prayers for her and the family. One of the youngest family members is Emma Johnston. She had a beautiful rapport with her grandparents and was always quite close to them. After losing her grandmother, the TLC star must be struggling to deal with her feelings. Emma recently sent her Nana a cute video of herself. While sitting next to the latter's bed, she painted her fingernails. The reality TV personality was lovingly caring for her grandmother and making her happy in her final moments. Trent's mother was seen by fans resting peacefully in bed while wearing a nasal cannula and other devices. The clip showed her looking quite tired and feeble. However, the 7 little Johnstons actress was content to be surrounded by her grandchildren in her last moments. Emma gave a heartfelt homage to her grandmother along with the recording. "Our Nana is in heaven being watched over by Poppy," she wrote. She acknowledged how much she missed her as well. Supporters expressed their sympathy to the family and remarked on Emma's close relationship with her grandmother. One reader wrote, "Ah, I'm so sorry for you and your entire family, sweetheart. I hope she finds love and peace." Another poster wished Trent well, stating that it must be hard on his health to watch his parents go in a few years. Another user went on to say, "She was among the most charming women I have ever encountered." How do you feel about the kind gesture? Tell us what you think in the comments below. Amber and Trent facing $435,000 lien for not paying taxing for 3 years. Amber and Trent, stars of 7 Little Johnstons, seem to be in a serious legal predicament. They are charged with not filing taxes for the previous 3 years. According to reports, the TLC stars have a $435,000 lien. Trent and Amber have just made their comeback on television. For a second season, the couple is showcasing their small family. Watching the drama surrounding the rift with Anna, fans eagerly awaited the reality TV stars. For 10 years, Amber and Trent have been in the spotlight. Their adventure on the show has brought them a great deal of popularity. Viewers have followed the Johnstons and their bizarre life updates on the show throughout the years. However, when they discovered Amber and Trent's serious legal problems, they were shocked. What actually took place? Is it accurate? Amber and Trent, the stars of 7 Little Johnstons, were heavily criticized on the internet for placing all the blame on Anna in the previous season. A new teaser for the current season was just released by TLC. Anna talks about the true cause of her conflict with the family in it. She disclosed that it all began when she stole Jonah's graduation dress without their knowledge and without taking pictures with them. She also felt bad about not going to Alex and Emma's graduation. But before the graduation drama, Amber and Trent disclosed that things had gotten out of hand. According to the former, Anna had to take a minor home so she could show her about. Rather, she brought her to a bar where she became drunk. When they caught her, he said she became angry with him. Amber and Trent Johnston are currently facing significant legal issues. They appear to be concealing their $435,000 lien after 3 years of non-payment of taxes. On July 21st, the reality TV stars were allegedly hit with lien charges. They have the one open lien. It hasn't been canceled, a clerk disclosed. According to The Sun, Trent and Amber owe $435,407.08 for 2021, 2022, and 2023 taxes that they neglected to pay. The lay-in action involving Amber and Trent was filed in Georgia. The two must verify the information and provide their perspective. Reddit users, however, are upset with the pair for evading taxes after becoming well-known. Why do none of the TV losers and reality stars ever pay their taxes? A viewer asked. Whether these celebrities are above the law was the fans' question. Another commenter questioned if Trent and Amber would hold Anna accountable for this. Why is it everyone thinks they are exempt from taxes once they hit TV? Asked a third user. The fact that Trent and Amber thought they were above the law and immune from taxes is unbelievable to fans. They rely largely on the money they make from the show and don't have any actual work. Along with their children, Jonah, Emma, and Alex, the stars of 7 Little Johnstons have been residing in Georgia. Liz and her partner Bryce have already moved in together. Anna, meanwhile, left the house a long time ago. Many viewers questioned whether Trent and Amber would drop the accusations like Julie and Todd did. How do you feel about this? Tell us what you think. No more today? What are you thinking about this gossip today? Let us know in the comments, and stay tuned by subscribing to our channel to get more updates like this. Thank you.